Good afternoon, everybody. Dave Carter with Flowery Hill Institute, and my partner Chris Roper and I are really excited to welcome everybody in here. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. I know we're just starting to let people in here, so we'll just hang tight for about a minute here until we get people out of the waiting room and into the Zoom. We'll go ahead and get started here, even though we'll have some more folks joining us as we go along. Um, I'm Dave Carter, and along with Chris Roper. We're with the Flowery Hill Institute, which has the cooperative agreement with USDA to coordinate the technical assistance network that was brought together to assist smaller meat and poultry processors around the country. And the topic we have this afternoon, I think, is very timely and critically important, particularly given the season that we're in and the stress that people have been feeling. So we're just really pleased to have two great folks joining us for the discussion here for the next hour. Before we get started, just two little housekeeping areas. First of all, this roundtable is being recorded, so it will be posted into our toolkit. You can, if you want, have someone that wasn't able to attend and they want to listen in, they can access it at any time. And as we go forward, you can type your questions into the chat. We will monitor that as we go, and as they come in, Chris and myself will be feeding those to our two guests. The third thing is that you will be getting a two-question survey following the roundtable. We always send those out. We want to find out two things. First of all, how did we do on this roundtable? How could we improve it moving forward? And then ideas for topics that you'd like us to cover moving forward. We do these about one a month. And so, again, this topic we have right now, just because of the season we're in, is incredibly timely. You know, this is the holiday season. I put together a blog yesterday where, yeah, we all listen to the songs. It's the happiest time of the year. Well, for some people, it's not. You know, this is a season where maybe they've lost someone, or disruption in their life, or who knows what that can just really weigh down on you. And rural people face more stress than urban folks, just because, particularly in agriculture, the uncertainty of the business and weather and economics and isolation. And then being in meat processing, we're in a profession that has additional stress. So we're really pleased today to have Lawrence Roan and Marvin Frink with us. Both of them are involved with the Farmer Veteran Coalition. They're agricultural producers. Marvin is in North Carolina and Lawrence is up in Montana. But even though they are both veterans, and we're going to talk about some of the issues that veterans deal with, this is really aimed at anybody that is feeling stressed, is feeling some challenges with mental health, or anyone who knows has a friend or a family member who's dealing with those. This is all about how we can reach out and help each other. So, with that, I'm going to ask our two guests here. Chris, did I cover the bases here before we introduce Marvin and Lawrence?
Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. Just, thank you all for joining us. To see a lot of friends and colleagues on the call. Again, just keep an open mind, and hopefully we can share thoughts and ideas today in this discussion, and maybe we can help someone, feel like reaching out and talking, and we want to make sure no one is left out or left behind.
so, well, Chris and I have had the real honor and pleasure of knowing Marvin and his wife Denisha here for about the last 3 years, and an opportunity to work with them So Marvin, yeah, just kind of introduce yourself to folks and kind of the journey that you've gone through.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marvin Frank from Briarwood Cattle Farm. Um, Briarwood Cattle Farm is a cow-calf operation that we saw that the need for food right now is growing your own. So we went that route to learn more about it, learn more about that with the great help of with Flower Hill Institute and USDA both together to learn both the professional side of it to help us out to grow a better protein for the economy. So in our community. So we're just a small operation that thinks big. So that's who we are.
Great. Lawrence, I first met you here about a couple months ago at the Farmer Veteran Coalition conference. So introduce yourself to folks as well.
Good morning, and first of all, thank you for the opportunity to share my story here on this platform. I'm honored to serve, and hope that I can inspire or motivate ones to follow the journey of hope that I navigate as well. I'm originally from North Carolina, but I am a yeah. I live now in Montana, been here about 11 years. I am a U.S. Army veteran, but I'm also a community advocate. So saying that, that means that I strongly believe that without the veteran, there is no community, and without the community, there is no veteran. So I cherish this opportunity to be able to share my story, one of resilience, and by no means has it been without challenge, but I look at challenges differently now today, and I hope that we can help inspire and motivate others who may be struggling in these challenging times of the season for many, and that we can walk away from here looking towards that light at the end of the tunnel towards life and prosperity.
Great. Well, Chris and I had a chance to visit with both you guys for a bit yesterday as we were preparing, and Marvin, you mentioned a couple of things. There are a couple of factors that um, can lead someone down kind of a dark path. So, kind of explain a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I want to start from the military point of view. And I'm just speaking from my experience of having that. Coming from the military, we're so used to having those resources directly in front of us. We know where to go to or how to find them, or have a mentor right immediately with us that can help us to find those proper answers to become the next subject matter expert. Once you retire or get out of the military, we're still looking for that same standard. Remember, that's all that we know. So getting on this side of the fence now, in approaching agriculture, that is totally opposite. The information flow is different. The communication is different. The response is different because we are very forward and persistent in what we're going to do, or want to do rather. And then once we're looking for something, we want to try to find the right information so we can start going down that proper path of, what we want to do in agriculture. If it's growing, growing vegetables or raising livestock, that's a hard way of trying to finding the right answers here and just don't know where to start at. So resources was the best point. Finding the Farmers Veteran Coalition was a great start for me, and I highly recommend the Farmers Veteran Coalition to everyone. And then, of course, the best team is Flower Hill Institute. Once you start getting to the next side of it, as far as your marketing side or your retail side of it, Flower Hill Institute, and I highly recommend that. And those are things that helped me out to get started.
Great. You talked yesterday though about some of the issues of denial and the pose, some of the things, and particularly in rural areas. Talk about that for just a second.
Yes, absolutely. Being in a rural area, it truly creates an isolation, of course, that an individual is already dealing with as being isolated themselves. Is you're already on an island because you're coming back from rapid deployments. You're coming back from being in a community with people that are always together, that camaraderie is together all the time. But getting into a rural area is totally opposite than that, where there's no one left or right of you. But of course, that's where a lot of things start getting as if it's getting to be very small to you, because we don't really see the help out there the way that we're so used to it. That term for us would be called like a battle buddy, or someone that we could relate to or talk to someone that we could lean on. But being in a rural area, you got to completely start all over again, and it's kind of hard to trust from the very beginning. So you start isolating yourself and ostracizing yourself in that space, and next thing you know, you're just steady building up and putting things in your backpack that you really don't need, of dealing with anger or alcohol or some other type of vice that we're dealing with that we really don't need, just to try to cope or to blend in with the local community. And it's kind of hard doing that at times.
Great. And Lawrence, when we were talking yesterday, you talked about 5 focus areas that you focus on, I guess to say. Explain a little bit about that.
Yes, sir. In community advocacy and in my work at the Farmer Veteran Coalition, we found that, and this is anecdotal, but anecdotally is pulled from years of research in behavioral health realm, that when individuals are challenged, service members or community members, there's 5 areas of focus where we're almost always impacted when we're challenged. One is with self-worth. Self-worth is very important because it impacts self-esteem, a feeling of self-worth. Then number 2 is our sense of purpose. Without a sense of purpose, it's challenging to navigate life because you struggle to find the why. And then community in rural and frontier and remote frontier communities. This is very, very important. That community takes on a totally different dynamic than in a urban or a suburban setting. And for the military members, this registers as well. And then there's 2 other areas that, as a result of, whatever traumatic or life impacting experiences we've had, there is a sense of shame that comes about. And it can be from or have roots that stretch throughout our life. It could be moral injury. It could be survivors' guilt. It could be just so many different. Could have so many different roots and root causes. And then the final one, and I find myself being impacted by this one the most, is the reduced or diminished mobility, viability, and stability. The older we get, the less stable we are on foot. We can become less stable cognitively as well. And then our viability is challenged, right? When I used to take a hammer and hit a nail when I was 30 years old, that nail would disappear in a couple of hits. Now at 60 plus years old, I might take 4 or 5 hits, right? So if I were to provide an analogy. So looking at those 5 focus areas, we find that in addressing those in one way or the other in the activities that we engage in, we help impact, motivate, and inspire others towards hope.
Those are really good. I'd like to add to that a little bit, Dave, but when you brought those up yesterday, Lawrence, it really made me think of, and we're speaking more today from a veteran standpoint, but we really should think about, the business owner or manager that might be on our call. Maybe they're having a tough time in business, or Dave and I have both worked with, divorce couples that have businesses, and they're looking at how to figure out and run that business on. We've worked with, storm victims this year. We've had tornadoes wipe out businesses. We've had hurricanes wipe out businesses. There's a lot of traumatic issues, and sometimes maybe it's just a loss of a family member or a loved one. This time of year is really hard. So all these things that you talk about, all there could be triggers from any number of areas, and when you bring up those 5 points, I think those could apply to any one of those emotional things that someone could be dealing with, and maybe if you guys can think about that. And I know, Marvin, for sure, you have people that reach out to you all the time, and it's not just military veterans, but you guys are both sounding boards for a lot of folks in a lot of different scenarios. But if there's anything you can add to that from just any number of traumatic things that happen in our life in general, and then how you continue to move forward and look forward and not look in that rear view mirror, as we said yesterday.
I would like to add on to that, Chris, if you don't mind. There's a few things that I had to address within myself, was to finally accept that I needed help, and still today seeking help in that space, because I was tired of carrying that on. So the very first thing I had to do was to accept that I needed help, and to know that the resources that are out there are resources for me to be a better person. I had to put my pride down, to say that, hey, I need help, and go to those resources that were available for me, like the VA office. It truly starting out coming from one end of the stick, being that strong guy like Brother Lawrence was talking about, and now you head into a place from where you need help. That creates, man, embarrassment. Then it creates, man, the poser that we're talking about. You put up this facade like everything is okay, but I was doing extremely a lot of crying, Chris, internally, you know what I mean? And then physically, I would get out somewhere where my family couldn't see me, and I would just cry about it because I didn't see myself finding a way out, and or how do I fix this? You know, being a provider and a protector, I feel like I was losing that space until one day I had a friend of mine that turned around and said, hey, let's go ahead and let's do this thing together. So how that started for me was normalizing that conversation, was saying to me that it was okay to start going to get help. And after that 30-minute or 45-minute session over, you're now getting that out, or quote unquote, we're getting it out of our backpacks. And now that load has became a little bit lighter, Chris. So the very first thing for me was normalizing that conversation. And I think that's one of the biggest parts that we need to do within this space, to let people know that it's okay to talk about mental health and to go seek mental health. So
Yeah.
first starting with normalizing the conversation.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I think, Marvin, that you've hit it on the head, and particularly for those of us in rural America, working in rural America, you travel around and there's just such this culture of rugged individualism. I can do it myself. Um, and that can sometimes be the biggest barrier. Lawrence, you talked about that sense of shame. That there's shame in admitting that you can't do it yourself. And how can we help people reach out and get beyond that, and do the kind of heavy lifting that you did, Marvin, personally? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's another portion that goes with that, is leverage that experience. Let's start talking about the different experience. My dad, before my father passed away, shared me with another veteran. He was a Vietnam veteran, that raised beef cattle. He lost his wife, but at that time he was 81 years old, and he never actually got a chance to go seek mental health in that state, because to him it was just, it didn't seem to work, or he didn't think it was going to work, but he did it through livestock. And that's the way that my father opened that first door through me, was through livestock, for me to go out to go get help. And that's how I became so passionate into it today, and still find my therapy and conversation by me communicating and talking to my animals every day, So This is an everyday struggle that I still struggle with, but I'm not ashamed of that, allowing it to be that burden on me anymore. And that's why I love to open myself up to be an asset for someone else, man, to turn around and go seek the proper help. And it doesn't matter if someone is just getting out of the military or just starting get into agriculture, or if they could be a CEO of the largest company. We all need to be there for each other and be in that space and start being good listeners to each other, and let's hear this thing out and then be there for that person when they need us the most.
It's hard to be vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah.
It truly is. It truly is. That was one of my biggest, that is my biggest issue for still today. You know what I mean? Yeah, I just told my kids the other day, they finally saw me limping, pretty bad. And it was like, Dad, let us help you. And once again, there's that part again where that sense of pride still comes about. But I had to remember, that I got a team here that can help me. That's my children. As a matter of fact, I'm being vulnerable to you about this now. Just this morning, my son called me and said, Dad, I'm sending you a new knee brace that can heat up and take some of that swelling down off your knee. And that was as of this morning,
Yeah.
so my son saw that I was struggling in that space. He did the best what he knew what to do was to order that for me, and it'll be here in the mail this Friday. So by me talking to my son, there it is, same thing we're just talking about.
Yeah.
He did it for me.
Yeah, you mentioned, unpacking that backpack, and
Mm.
there's lots of analogies to talk about that, but a lot of us grew up in times where we didn't talk about feelings, and you didn't talk about this or talk about that. We spent a lot
Mhm.
of times building barriers and building walls and suppressing those things that were on your mind inside in that backpack. And so that
Mhm.
backpack can get so full. And there's an analogy I heard several years ago, Marvin, and when you're unpacking that backpack, it's like peeling back layers of an onion, and
Mhm.
you peel back that skin. Every time you peel back a piece of it, it might make you cry too. Yeah,
Sure.
that
Sure. Sure.
that onion analogy. When you're unpacking, and the more
Yeah,
you unpack, the more you might find.
that's
So
exactly right.
and it's such a freeing feeling if you think about it, when you unpack that backpack and you lighten that load, and you can get those things off your mind, out of your body, out of your
Mhm.
spirit, and
Right.
life looks a lot different. And
It
you know
does.
there's a tomorrow, and there's new light, and so I just want everyone to know that and share that, and we've got to be vulnerable, and we have to
Mhm.
talk about these things in order to get better, and in order to free that spirit and get that load off of you. And Lawrence, I know you had some things you were wanting to share on that too, but feel free to jump in and preach it for us.
Yes, sir. If I may, I just tremendous the share that you've each provided us. One of the things that we try to a mantra that we have, and I would uh, put this out there for everyone, and we ask or challenge each of the folks that we support to do the following. Be strong enough to stand alone, which is the siloed approach of the individual that lives in a rural frontier or remote frontier setting. But we want you to be smart enough to know when you need help and then be brave enough to ask for it.
Mhm.
If you take on that mindset, that approach, I, like Marvin, am challenged with that ask for help. But what I found is that if you take a structured approach to it, and that takes me back to my military roots, right? There's a structure, there's a standard operational procedure, if you will, for everything and anything that we did. What that does is affords you the opportunity to be able to repeat a process. If you can repeat a process, uh, repetition begets um, a competency in that activity. So if we apply that to behavioral health, be that mental challenges that we may have, or even substance use challenges that we may have, this will help immensely. And the other point is being in a remote frontier, or a rural setting, we don't have access to providers readily all the time. So then we develop our language and our setting, and then at some point we have to go into a suburban or urban setting where the providers are, or access them online, and then we begin to talk to them about the challenges that we have in our setting. And that language, the rest of America isn't really familiar with. So finding a tool that helps us translate our challenges, our struggles, is what we found most important in helping individuals in the advocacy for themselves. And that tool we found to be the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. That's called WRAP, for short, WRAP. The Wellness Recovery Action Plan is a tool of wellness. It's an evidence-based tool that was developed over 25 years ago by a young lady, I call her, but Dr. Mary Ellen Copeland. Today, she's, I think, 80 plus years old. I know it's not nice to share a lady's age, but she is a tremendous warrior of self-advocacy. And that tool, I can tell you, has provided me the ability to replicate different approaches to the challenges I've had. I'll share here. I didn't share this yesterday with you gentlemen, but I was homeless in 2009. All right. 2009, I was homeless, and using the 5 key concepts of WRAP, I am able to replicate each and every challenge that I face today. I know now that I had to take personal responsibility for the decisions that I made that put me where I was. That's one of the 5 key concepts. The first key concept is hope. The second is personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support. There is strength in numbers, and we need support. Our circle may be strong. It may be our son, it may be our daughter, it may be our wife or spouse, it may be our spiritual leader. But either way, those supports, we need to make notes to ourselves to be able to advocate for ourselves and say, I need help. And even if I don't know the right way to say it, someone in my support circle should be able to translate that for me to someone who can facilitate the help that I need.
Mhm.
Great. And I know we had a hand go up, but if it went back down, feel free to type in if you have a question or chat. We don't want to miss anyone, so just know that we're
Yeah.
trying to keep an eye on everything, but don't
Yeah,
let your
we're
question
watching.
go unasked.
Yeah, we're watching the chat here, and as questions come in, we'll pass them on. And also in the chat, we did list resources that are available. We'll have a slide at the end of this discussion that'll cover those as well. But not only through Farmer Veteran Coalition, but our friends at Farm Aid run a hotline. The USDA has a rural, what do they call it? The Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. So all of that is up there, and be sure and grab that. You were speaking about the circle of support too. And I think those, people that are in providing support to someone that's struggling, and I know this personally just from, having a family member dealing with some mental health issues, that you want to say, okay, they've acknowledged it, they're getting help, they're doing this, so they're going to get cured. There's going to be the day that all of a sudden they're just going to walk up and say, hey, I'm cured. It doesn't happen that way, does it? Talk a little bit about this being a lifelong journey.
If you don't mind, I would definitely love to pick this one up. For me, that is one of the biggest issues right there, of course, because now that's where you become open at right there. Um, my first notion for me was to literally I changed it over and asked my family to come in with me to counseling. So that way we could start things together. So as a family, we went to counseling together. So instead of me going to a counselor and now I'm just talking to a counselor, I literally had sessions that changed up for my family to come in with me. So that way they could see what my struggles are. So once we get back home, we can work on these things together to see if I'm having an issue here. And once I started doing that, things start picking up. And as a family, we became closer because I'm trying to do so much so others didn't have to do the following. But that's when my family saw that they can help me to pick up that camaraderie that I'm so used to having, and it strengthened my family together. But just by going to counseling, and then my recommendation in that was to have our families go together, or have that loved one go together with you. That made a huge difference in my life because it created an avenue of a whole different conversation within ourselves, or a better understanding, or I didn't know you was going through this on that date. Like you were saying in the very beginning, there's dates that's in our, that we deal with. We just don't say nothing, but it's there, for us to deal with. But now they know these dates and we can get through it together. So sharing that information with others makes a huge difference inside of your journey of getting the right help for it.
Yeah. And it seems like that's more communication.
Mhm.
Whereas before you might not have been communicating at all about it, where now
Mhm.
it's a more open form of communication and you're able to share
Mhm.
that openly. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Chris, I'm gonna open up one more for you here. So anytime that you see me at a conference or you see me at any event, it's always me and my wife together. But if you notice something at that particular time as we're doing it, I'm always holding Tanisha's hand. Um, that is my first sign of me holding her hand, is me dealing with anxiety in that particular space that I'm in. So if I'm going there to an event and you see me holding or her holding my hand, that is me identifying me and her together, that the anxiety that I'm dealing with of being in an open room around so many people is difficult for me to be in that space, but she's right there with me of dealing with that. And that's how I'm moving forward. So little signs like that by me and her holding hands there together, we're doing it together. And that's me opening everything up right now. And you get a chance to, and you guys have seen it so much. But Dave, Chris, Brother Lawrence, that's me dealing with extreme anxiety at that particular moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for being vulnerable. It's not easy.
Yeah, exactly. Lawrence, anything you want to add on that?
Yes, sir. I just want to express my gratitude and adoration, Marvin, for your vulnerability in the setting and speaking on your personal challenges and helping bring to light that it is it is a it's a blessing to be able to uh, acquire the strength and have the support of a loved one, or of in my case, understanding the challenges that I face. And you know, for the veteran, what we uh, what we have to understand is that as we transition back into a civilian setting, that transition is lifelong. That transition never ends. We've been indoctrinated, if you will, in a certain way, and the way I handle those challenges is, number one, I've grown to understand, and with the help of the first 5 years after I got out of service, I struggled immensely, and never understood what the true challenge was until my therapist pointed out to me that, and I live with hyper vigilance. That's one of my greatest struggles. So I can relate to Marvin's feeling in large groups or in spaces that I'm unfamiliar with. I you you learn to look for coping mechanisms that are healthy and good for you. In my case, I had to learn to understand that sleep deprivation was a huge challenge for me. I was not sleeping enough, and therefore I could not be rested. And as I navigated life, um, brought to my attention the fact that a canine was my one of my coping tools, which affords me that ability to rest at night soundly. I travel and I go to a hotel, I do whatever. I don't get that REM sleep, reactive eye movement sleep that I would get or that I get when I'm at home with my canine who's sitting right here beside me. And his bed is next to my bed, and that allows me to be able to get those. I need 6 to 7 hours of sleep, but it's 8 hours of sleep. If I can do that, then I can face the world and whatever it has to throw at me. Um,
Mhm.
when I don't do that, I'm challenged, and and then my spouse plays a tremendous role because she helps me in all that I do. Because the other thing that I do is I find great healing in the service of others. And but I can't do that and take care of the canines that I have and all of the other things that you do on a farm and a ranch setting. It takes a team. It takes a team. It takes a community
Mhm.
to do that. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, yeah, I absolutely empathize with what it is you're saying there, and support is probably one of the most key attributes that I've been able to take on in navigating life and the challenges that I've been confronted with.
Yeah.
I
No, it's
think a
all,
lot of us could relate to that furry therapist
yeah.
Oh yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Oh
They do a
yeah.
world of good. Yeah,
And I'll add
those
even too,
companions.
when you're not sleeping good, Lawrence, you might have seen it. I've seen it in myself, but if you're not sleeping good, it affects your health. It's going to affect
It
your
does.
blood pressure. It's going to affect your eating habits. It's going to affect you in so many different ways
Yes,
that come detrimental overall to your health. So
yes.
something that we need to pay attention to. And it kind of leads me to my next question for you guys. And Dave probably I know has a couple too, but for the folks that are listening, and we're talking about, maybe some self-identification and things that we deal with internally, but how can we turn that into maybe how do you identify that from a coworker or a loved one, or how do you know if somebody that you don't see all day, every day, how can you identify when someone's having an issue when they are not talking or they are not opening up? What are some things that we can help people look for to identify somebody that's struggling? Because there are so many struggles out there and we all know it, you know, so many of us, and so many of us as adults and children, men or women, you stay quiet. You stay quiet. Maybe you're withdrawing. Maybe you're just staying out in your neck of the woods and not coming to town or whatever it might be. How can we help identify somebody that might be struggling and try to get them help?
Let me give you my personal brothers, if you don't mind. One of the first things that someone would tackle once they're dealing with fear and anxiety and depression all at the same time is their movement to you. Um, if someone is approaching you extremely fast and they're walking to you extremely fast, that is one of the first signs, because you as the individual, you be like, "Hey, Chris, how's everything going?" But your hand is palmed out. That means that they're coming a little too fast. where that person is truly dealing with fear at that moment, lack of knowledge in what they're going to ask, but yet they don't want you to see them being vulnerable. So approach is definitely one main thing, and it's how they approach you, but it'll definitely show to you the person that they approach you too fast, but your reaction is where it begins. It's either going to shut that person down, or they'll just say, you know what, forget it, never mind. But they don't know that they're doing that. They don't know that they're operating out of fear at that particular moment. And they quickly want to get, to what's in their mind. They want to say something to you without forgetting it from point A to point B, but not realizing they're walking so fast to you that it's unapproachable. And it's like, hey, is everything all right? That is one of the first things that I was addressed, that I was doing a whole lot, because I was coming to that subject matter expert looking for that type of information, but they didn't know that I was dealing with, I could walk from here to my front door and I forgot what I wanted to say. So now my therapist, first thing they had me to do was to keep a notebook with me everywhere I go. And that helped me with time management, was a notebook. And that slowed me down in that particular space. And that's one of the first things that helped me out, was to finally write it down. And then I could reapproach it the right way by talking to family and friends, and subject matter experts, without putting that anxiety or fear or depression on them that's very unapproachable. And that was one of the first things that I've learned to deal with, and still deal with it today. Here's my notebook right here, so I'm still dealing with it, but it's a great working tool that helps me to take that thought out and put it on paper. And then now I can relook at it like, you know what, I can fix this, and I can find that answer on YouTube, and now when I do talk to a subject matter expert, I can get a little bit more comfortable in the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Your mind can process that thought a little bit different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
far, we've got one comment in the Q&A, which is, thank you for your openness and unpacking such a important topic. Yeah, this is a critically important topic. But anybody that has a question, yeah, please put it in the Q&A so that Marvin and Lawrence can tackle it.
Yes, if
Marvin,
I could support Marvin's point there about his structured approach. So that notebook is a tool in the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. You develop a toolbox. In that toolbox, you have your coping mechanisms. One of the strongest tools that you can have is your journal. That's what that notebook is, right? So identifying these different tools and the significance of them, not only in our setting and what they are to us, but what they are to providers and professionals as we navigate crisis or look to avert crisis, is very important. That journal, I mean, journals are legal documents in a temporaneous notes in a court process. I mean, they are so key to establishing your worth in any activity. So if you see, as I talk about the different things I speak to, it addresses the self-worth, it addresses the community, it addresses the 5 areas that I related to you, and it is for me, the strength in numbers approach. The Farmer Veteran Coalition, our membership is 50,000 members plus. Now that sounds like a lot, but that isn't where we want to be. We want to approach the 1 percentile of the number of veterans that we have throughout the United States. And if you'll follow me here for a moment, there's over 19 million veterans worldwide, right? So if you take the veteran and their indoctrination, their training, their force multiplier capacity, and put them in a community and motivate them to continue to serve, do you see how that enriches the community and how that strengthens the community? So that to answer your question about how do you identify it, I think the first step is establishing rapport with your community, with your neighbor, with your environment. That's my other healing tool for me. The farming and the ranching does something for me that that words can't explain, right? Getting into nature. Dr. Mary Ellen Copeland, I had the opportunity to meet her last December, and she was in if you get the opportunity, please go look her up and look at her story and look up the Wellness Recovery Action Plan. But she shares that, she was institutionalized and medicated, and those things weren't helpful for her. But what was helpful, and I asked her, I said, so are you still challenged with those challenges that caused you to be institutionalized? She said, oh, yeah, absolutely, every day. And I asked her, how do you navigate that? And she said, when I'm most challenged, I get into nature, right? And if you get into nature, those challenges, you see them differently. Now I look at a challenge as an opportunity to grow, right? I never had that approach to it, but now I see, oh, well, if I look hard enough, there's an opportunity here, and I can grow. I can help others grow, and if I can't see it, then I reach to my support and seek that out to get it, or my spiritual leader. At the foundation of everything that I've done, the way I've been able to find that light towards life at the end of the tunnel is remembering that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that is my foundational tool, and I never want to forget to give that and acknowledge that that is a key part of my recovery and navigating life.
Absolutely.
We did have a question come in here from Catherine in Maine. Really good question. I'm going to read it verbatim because there's a lot embedded here in the question. She said, thanks for having the conversation. Are there any successful models that we can learn about as employers that can be implemented in our meat processing operation for the employees to have weekly or monthly debriefing? We're an expanding halal operation and plan to hire people predominantly from the Muslim and immigrant communities who carry high levels of personal trauma, family trauma, generational trauma, but may have barriers to the Western approach to mental health. What's a good approach that doesn't look like traditional counseling that we can offer as a part of our employer practices? Go ahead, Marvin.
Man, let me have this one, please. Ethnicity training is the number one thing that would be great for that, is to understand someone's culture without the misstanding of their why or their why not. If we get a chance to have more ethnicity training, we can understand why people tick when they talk, or you get a better understanding of them, where their culture are, how they operate, why they're doing it at a particular time of the day, and vice versa. So ethnicity training is something that everyone can share. That is something that greatly moved into the military community, that now we got to better understand to know our battle buddies next to us, because you come from all types of walks of life. And that's how the military did it, was through ethnicity training. And today we need more of that, because majority of the processing facilities are in rural areas, and around different communities and cultures that can help us with that, but we don't all look the same. So I think the solution to that is ethnicity training.
Roy?
Yes, I support that. My word to address that, maybe in a broader perspective, is cultural competence. So the employer, as they provide an ability to put on or look through the appropriate lens, right, is to understand that in their workplace they create a culture. and then you have these faceted cultures inside of your employment culture, and looking for that evidence-based tool to do that is one of self-advocacy. And if you're looking for that evidence-based tool, I would say that the Wellness Recovery Action Plan is that tool, and the conduits, and that those are the folks that can help you navigate that. There's a corporation. The name of it is Advocates for Human Potential. I would reach out to them. They are, by the way, the intellectual property owners of the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, but they are well versed in all settings throughout the world of helping folks figure that exact question you just asked out. So I would refer the person that asked that question in that direction, because they can provide you a holistic approach at navigating that very, very important challenge of workplace and cultural competence in addressing the needs of your work culture.
And I would caution folks, if you're new to meat processing, or if you're thinking about starting meat processing, something that I've experienced inside of meat processing plants are people that say maybe they work on the harvesting floor all day, every day, and they're taking a life every day, or taking multiple lives every day. That's a mindset. And when somebody is in that environment where they're literally killing animals all day, every day, they're around blood all day, every day, that literally does something to the mind and makes people think differently sometimes. And we need to be aware of those employees and how they're acting or reacting. Sometimes those employees need to be cycled out of those rooms and not left in that environment repetitively. They need a break. Maybe put them in a different area of the plant, or get them outside, or maybe get them with the animals. That work day after day after day can definitely take a toll mentally on workers as well. So just something to be aware of and something to watch for.
Yeah, that is so crazy. I mean, the industry that we're in, that's one of the key factors is, it's margins are tight, business is tough, economy is unvariable, and then you have this added factor that it's built around taking the lives of the animals every day. So, um, Marvin, before we get too far down the path here, I wanted you to talk a little bit, because I know you and Tanisha have hosted some events at Briarwood that you call Day of Healing.
Yes.
Explain what that is, and maybe how people in other areas could maybe do something similar.
Absolutely, and thank you for this opportunity. This year will be our fourth annual Day of Healing. And how it started was, I actually went to the doctor's office one day, and a very small doctor's office, and the doctor opened the door like really fast and startled me, and sat his stool down and slid directly in front of me. And to me, it was like directly in my space, and I couldn't even function. I didn't even want to be in that room anymore. My anxiety was through the roof. I felt like that the chalk, your hand on the chalkboard kind of a vibe. And I was like, I can't do it. And he asked me, did he do anything wrong? And I explained to him what happened and what I was dealing with. And he said he's heard that before, but to him, it was more of that's his way of breaking the stigma of coming into a room. And I was like, well, that's kind of tough for me to deal with. So I came home, and I struggled I struggled with that for a whole week. I just couldn't let it go. Then I told my wife, like, we need to do something from where we could bring the subject matter experts, to the open area so they can understand why and what we're doing here. So we created an event here on the farm called the Day of Healing, from where now we bring all the subject matter experts to our cattle farm. So now they get a chance to be out in an open environment, and others, just like myself, get a chance to be in an atmosphere from where we're all comfortable, and now we can receive that vital information, or that important information, without having the stress and anxiety on us at all. So that's the basis of the Day of Healing, and that's truly where it begins, right there. So that way we can lower the anxiety And that's where the day of healing begins, by us lowering that anxiety portion for where it's comfortable for everyone to meet each other, um, be just who you are, come as you are. And let's talk about agriculture and mental health in that space, risk assessments. Let me give you my lessons learned to set someone up for success. Not only that, through other corporations as well. And they come out to help anyone out as well. And so the Day of Healing does that. To give you an example of it, we teamed up with a company called SBDTC, Small Business Development Training Center. And they turn around and they write the business plans for veterans. It's free. What happens is the college will assign students in their master's degree, and their final grade would be your proposed business plan. But, of course, going back and forth with you to make sure that business plan is together and it fits, your need and your business plan. And once it's approved from there, that you approved it prior to their graduation, they run it through the Economic Development Council as well. So now they're saying, hey, can we create jobs with this business plan as well? And it goes from there to the approval. So now, not only that your business plan is free, it's solid, it meets the requirements for you to be approachable to talk to banks and everyone else, that alone takes the anxiety and the depression right away, because now I'm competitive now. Now my business plan that we saw now it got wheels on it now, it could move forward. And that was one of the first things that helped us with our processing plant for us to get started. And that alone helped us to get a $250,000 grant out the gate. And I'm very thankful for that, because we teamed up with the right people. It didn't cost us anything, but it set us up for success in that space. And there's plenty of tools out there that can help you. After we received the business plan from that, they contacted us again and then put us with another team to create our marketing plan as well. So not only did we get a solid business plan, we got a solid marketing plan too that fit our community, fit our business plan, and fit our 10-year growth as well. And I'm just very thankful. So those are the type of resources that are coming there to help lower that anxiety, but yet we get a chance to speak just who we are, how we are, and it's a very comfortable environment here at the Day of Healing. So just some examples of how that works.
It's a great event, and hats off to you guys for doing that. But that's something I think other folks can look at similar approaches. I'm going to ask Nicole, go ahead and put the slide up with some of the resources there. Chris, anything else you want to ask Marvin or Lawrence?
All great information, and we appreciate you all being here, talking openly, and being a sounding board for Dave and I. Even as we're navigating these waters, we have worked with hundreds and hundreds of meat processing businesses. Food production in general is a very tough business. For any of our listeners or viewers online, or maybe that see the recording later, if there's anything that we can do to help you or to try to connect you with any type of assistance, please reach out to us. I think many of you have known Dave and I for quite a while, and I don't think we've probably ever told any of you no. So, if you need help with anything, please reach out to us, and we will try to connect you to the help you're looking for, no matter what that help is. So, and with that, these resources are here. These are some of these groups we work with all the time. Obviously, the Farmer Veteran Coalition has a hotline. Farm Aid has a hotline. USDA Farm and Ranch Stress Assistance Network. They have several different regions, as well. We put a link on here. If you click on the link, you can click on the region you're in, and then dive into the resources that each region has. And maybe I'll let Marvin talk about the Wounded Warrior Project talk, and then Lawrence about Rural Health Information Hub, just because you guys are more familiar with those, and then you can give us some in-depth, examples of what they do.
And while
Absolutely.
you do that, Marvin, Nikki, go ahead and change to the slide so that people will have the contact information for Lawrence and Marvin. Go ahead. Myron?
So for the Wounded Warrior program, that one is awesome. Wounded Warrior program, talk program, is a program that keeps all your vital information, of course, to you. Is something that's not going to go back to your unit or anything like that. And what it is, it's a phone call that you could receive. It's a peer-to-peer that they will team you up with someone that's been through the same background of global war as the same. They'll call you. You talk for X amount of time, and it helps. So it creates a battle buddy of someone that's also been through the exact same thing and how they advance to get the right help too, because that's sustainability is very valuable to know that you can get that information from someone that's been through it and trusted. It's the exact reflection of what we're used to coming from the military. But in this case, it's an actual mental continuity book of a resource that's trusted. I still use it today. I've been in the same program several times, and I highly recommend it to any veteran. It's called Wounded Warrior Talk. I love the work that they're doing, not only for myself, but for me and my family. And it's such a bond there that we're all used to in creating there. And I highly recommend it.
What about the Rural Health Information Hub?
Absolutely. So the Rural Health Information Hub is a platform through several categories for modules that can help anyone from CEOs and their team or processing plants and their team to help them to put together how to communicate with someone that's dealing with something, or how to put together a security plan, inside of a meat processing plant that can help in the event of a mental health situation. Those are things that we don't talk about, and those resources are there. The development plan there, the rural health there, helps us out there to find those right resources that's directly into the rural area. For example, going through this, I did not even know that in my own county, we had a whole complete department that deals with mental health. And I've been doing this for years. And I did not know, and this is my second year of dealing with our local community here in Hope County, and I'm very thankful for them. And that came with the support from medical, our sheriff department, our county commissioners, just by teaming up with one thing. And I'd never known that unless I went through the right links here, and those links to help us to find that type of information. It's a wealth of information to get you started. And it's definitely something I highly recommend for people just to go through it, at different times.
Great. And Nicole, if you'll take down the slide so we can see Marvin and Lawrence one last time and thank them so much. This was so valuable. And I know Chris and I really appreciate your openness, your willingness to share your stories and to reach out and help others. So with that, we really appreciate it. We hope everyone has a good holiday season and look forward to a healthy, happy 2025 that will help each other along through the year. So thank you guys.
Thank you all very much. Please reach
Thank
out
you.
if we can help.
Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you as
Have
well.
a good
Thank
one.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.